Alright guys, welcome back to the pod where we are now going to do our topic of the week, which is the current state of gaming and where will we be next gen. Considering it's kind of getting to the dying days of this generation. The last 5 years have been amazing, full of great games, but I think it's now time to start looking ahead. So there's an interesting conversation to be had.
Yeah.
So I thought we could cover 3 different areas of current state of gaming and where next gen will be. Starting off with gas trends, or games as a service, and the impact it's having on current game quality, because a lot of big AAA publishers are going for games as a service. Your Fortnites, your Anthems, your Rainbow Six, your Apex. And a lot of these have been very successful. Some of them have crashed and burned. Some of them have started out terrible and become good later on. And this is obviously having an impact on the players. So, kind of in that vein, I'll start off with you, Dennis. What's your overall feelings towards this stress on gas games?
Well, in the very beginning, like the E3s, like 2012, 2013, when they were talking about, say, I remember the Division trailer. I was like, man, I really want to play this single-player game. It looks super great, and then found out that it wasn't a real single-player game. It was a games as a service, and they were very coy about the description of what it was. You know, like shared world shooter or all that nonsense.
Yeah.
And then like the games slowly came out, and they start off rough, but they get better over time. And we got used to it. I got used to it. I've got it into Destiny. I've got it into...
Yeah, me too. I was a Destiny addict, Destiny 1 addict.
So the games are unique. Like, when they're good, man, they're really good and really addictive. But what happens is that these developers, these AAA developers, these hundreds developers are stuck with this one game for 4 or 5 years. So a whole generation, you get stuck with one game, and depending on the quality, like that's what you're stuck with for that generation. So imagine what Massive would have given us if they didn't have to keep working on the Division alone. We could have had maybe 3 AAA games on the quality of the Division, single player games, or I guess multiplayer games.
True.
So that's where, if you're a gamer who does not like to play multiplayer games, you're suffering. And I feel that's what's made Sony win this generation. I actually don't think it's anything to do with their marketing. I actually think it's because they have released Horizon Zero Dawn, and they've released God of War and Spider-Man.
Days Gone just outsold MK11.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a certain amount of gamers who do not want to play online games, and I think these developers and the marketing and the studios are not realizing that there's 30 and 40 and 50-year-old gamers who they're kind of like cancelling out. They're like, oh no, now this is
if it's
13-year-old Fortnite games.
Yeah. There's a market gap there that Sony's actually filling because of all these gas games and stuff.
I mean, look, it was inevitable for games to go down this path, especially as the market grew. And I guess that always falls down to the developers. It's the developers' decision to also think about just inserting any means necessary to get money without outrightly asking you to give it to them. But I think that it's going to continue to the next generation, and it's going to continue to somehow... I mean, some people do it correctly, you know. I don't mind it. As a developer, I understand that they go through hell to make these games, and they need to rake in the money. But you cannot have situations where it's just outright greed. I don't think it should.
Your Star Wars Battlefront 2, for example.
Yeah, I mean, people have got it horribly wrong at some point. But, I mean, if it's a cosmetic thing and things are $1, $3, I mean, people will always buy that. And I think that you should stick to that philosophy and not force it down people's throats, especially when it came through. Was it Star Wars?
Yeah, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Pay to win,
pay to win. Yeah.
Remember, they wanted us to grind for 50 hours to unlock it. I mean, this is a children's game.
They learned from it, though. I mean, they did remove all those microtransactions, but you just have to be careful with it. I know it's going to stick around for a long time, but I believe that it should stick to cosmetics and be kept at a very low price, and I should know what I'm buying, for God's sake.
And I think it's our job to also really kind of try highlight and talk about those games that are getting games as a service, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, for example, like Warframe is a really big success story this gen. From, I mean, that was almost day one launch with PS4.
It was a launch game,
yeah, it was a launch game, and you look at it now, and it's like radically improved, radically different.
Super different.
Yeah. People are. It's one of the most recommended games you see online now. Everyone's like, "You haven't played Warframe yet? You're tired of Destiny? Play this, play this." So you know, even Rainbow Six. Yeah,
Rainbow Six.
You know, initially it didn't set the world on fire when it came out, but with time, it's grown into one of the best competitive shooters out there. So, I think it's also important for us to like kind of focus in on those success stories.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, you know, we have no impact, but just putting that out there into the world at least should, you know.
Because I mean, the longevity of the microtransactions as well. I mean, if it's something that is just going to keep people playing, and it doesn't feel any way like it's gambling, then yes, I truly believe in that.
I think it's also important to note that these games are so lucrative for these publishers that it's very hard to convince them to make other sorts of games apart from games as a service. Which is why I really believe that we're going to get a lot of them, or at least each studio will have one game as a service.
There are a lot more.
Even Red Dead 2 has to be online because GTA Online
murdered it.
Super
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah.
So that's one aspect. And I'm fine with it. I just think that these games should be free. At least free to start, like the way Nintendo kind of does with some of their games. Like, if you're gonna make a game as a service, make it free. Warframe has shown that people will spend money on everything else. I mean, I'm realistic.
You don't want to pay your $50.
I don't expect
and
them
continue
to,
paying.
like, I don't expect them to make their microtransactions kinda or whatever, but if it's free, at least they're like, they don't make money off of the $60. That is not where they make their money from. They make their money from the microtransactions. So make the barrier to entry free and get your money off of that. At least you're being honest
about it. Yeah,
that $50 tastes sweet though.
That's the thing. Why can't I get 50 and the microtransactions? Like, all right. So that's kind of the gas area of where we are right now. Looking now and ahead, let's talk about streaming tech for a little bit, because we know that this is going to be a big focus of Xbox with Project xCloud for next gen. We already have PlayStation have already invested with PS Now, and we have a new challenger enters the ring. You know, we have Google Stadia now, who a couple of weeks ago did their announcement. So Google Stadia is going to be Google's streaming service for games. They had it was at GDC, right? Games Developers Conference. They showed off how the tech is going to work across mobile, PC as well. So clearly this is going to be a new thing that's going to disrupt the industry, and it's also going to disrupt like business models, because Google, for example, did say, is this subscription, am I paying for games, whatever. So obviously there's the internet infrastructure factor, obviously, and we know how that is kind of over here. So is this viable for any of us? You know what I mean? We all have decent net, but you know, I don't know if I'll be streaming the next Doom or whatever.
I don't know.
So what kind of impact do you think streaming is going to have on whether it's the industry as a whole, and consumers, developers? What are your thoughts?
So streaming has been around for a pretty long time. Like, I remember the Gaikai days. I was studying in Australia at the time Gaikai was pushing their stuff, so I actually tried the streaming stuff.
Oh, cool.
It was bad. Granted, Australia has
pretty, I hear that all the time. Yeah.
It's good and bad all the time, but even there it was like not great. On the industry side, honestly, we have to wait and see. I don't think PS Now has really made a dent at all. With Google having as much impact and reach as it does, they could really like go all out. If they really do go all out and try their best to hit the markets that they can hit, because there are people who can utilize this technology. It's not a big number, but there is a market. And this is like people on phones, any screen that has internet, your smart TV. And they're doing the correct thing where they're selling it with a controller. So you tell anybody like, hey man, get your TV, that's your console. Your TV is your console. And here's a controller for, I don't know, $40 or $30. that's your in. You can play Assassin's Creed, whatever, right? Vikings.
Vikings.
That is such an easy in for any fringe or casual gamer. So I really do think that they can get some sort of piece of the market there. For everybody else, hardcore gamers, this is not for hardcore gamers. A hardcore gamer is gonna want 60 FPS, no artifacting, no lag, and that is not gonna happen here.
Yeah, and when your internet gets like an internet cable's cut at home or whatever, you just can't play Jack. You know what I mean? Like,
they're done for.
And my internet was down for like 2 weeks last year, a couple of weeks back, and it was torture. So, Patrick, anything comes to mind with this?
When I think of the streaming service, I think that looking at it from the Google's perspective is. It's definitely an investment in the future for them. I mean, streaming isn't exactly where we want it to be. Well, I mean, look, it's been around for a long time. And I think that the specs that they're talking about and how the game will be faster to load, I mean, they were talking about really quick load times.
Yeah, really, because...
and effortless using your browser. And I was like... Well, it's going to be a long time until we get it. But like... With people with faster internets, I mean, even in America, it will be difficult for some people to get the speeds that they want for your character to respond in the perfect amount of time. But it's still an investment for the future, and I think it's a good investment. I think in terms of PlayStation's perspective is that I don't think they have... I mean, they're not dumb. Everybody there is very clever, so I'm sure
and
at
it's weird
some point...
because PlayStation have been doing streaming the
longest.
But they're like ranked to the lowest, right?
They've definitely got their ear to the ground, but I think they know that PlayStation now will tell you when it's time to shove it down your throat. We'll let you know.
I think they might also do a revamp, kind of rebrand, and maybe a bit more for PS5. Maybe that's a way to play PS1 to
they
PS3
could just
games.
build it from the ground up when they know that the time is right. But I think for now, streaming is still a little bit ways away. But it'll get there. It'll get there. I mean, we all assume that the box will eventually leave our living rooms, but not within the next 5 years.
Yeah,
I think the point that you brought up also is very interesting for the casual gamer.
Yeah.
I think if they get the speeds right, even if it's not the most intensive games, hell, even if your graphics are PlayStation 3, this could be a very good entryway for a lot of players into the video game realm, where they can play some casual things, like you're saying, at $30, oh, well, let me just try it out, and actually now start investing in wanting to get consoles, whether it's a Switch or whatever else.
I do have to say, like, I notice, there's this whole casual game nonsense, whatever, but like, I notice in public transit, every 100%, okay, maybe 95%, there's always somebody playing Candy Crush or Infinite Runner or the past. This is in Zambia, in Lusaka.
Yeah, definitely.
So these people are gamers. These guys spend thousands of hours on these games.
Yeah.
If you tell them to try something different, like people play PUBG, people play Fortnite on these phones. If you tell them to try something just a little bit more hardcore, they will slowly get into it. And
Sony and Xbox have actually said Fortnite has grown the console market because it's brought in completely new players, and now they want to try newer games that they normally would never have played.
Yeah.
Like I said on a previous video, my sister is now interested in gaming because of Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, oh, there's something that's kind of similar to this. I know how to shoot now. You know what I mean? And then you throw in maybe a story on top of that, and their mind gets blown. You know what I mean? So
it's a good step forward.
Yeah, it grows the pie, which is great. My only question is with Google Stadia, especially, is I really want to know the business model, because are you genuinely going to be, if it's subscription, oh well and good, but no publisher on this earth is going to give you their $60 brand new game for free. Unless Google, they're paying truckloads of money, which they can do or whatever, but that's not sustainable long term.
If you look at what Epic are doing, and they have a lot of money right now because of Fortnite, they are getting exclusive games on their platform, and they are selling them at $40, sometimes $30, sometimes $20. These are big games. If mere Epic compared to Google, if they can do that, I'm pretty sure they can convince someone like a Ubisoft to put their games on a subscription service. Same way that Microsoft have grown their service because of their Play Anywhere thing.
Yeah.
That service is doing wonders for them. Like, even I am like, I want to try that because there will always be one game or two games on there that you try, and they've noticed that when someone plays, say, Sea of Thieves, then they are tempted because it's free, right? If you pay for the subscription, like let me just try Hellblade. Let me also try Gears of War. Like these guys are now, the people on the subscription are buying more games than the people who are not on the subscription. That's interesting. So.
Actually, that's actually a good little nugget of information. Okay, so I think we will wrap it up for streaming there and move on to our last bit of this topic in terms of what do we want to see from next-gen software, which is a bit of a nebulous thing, not exactly very specific, but what are the kind of experiences or what changes do you want to see, whether it's higher frame rates, delivered or focus on 4K, or what kind of games you want to see. For me, I would just hope that because next gen looks like a wasteland almost, you know what I mean? I think like games are quality as a whole is just getting better across the board. I think we're getting like less dud-like games that aren't made with a level of quality, and I would just like that to continue because I think the baseline of game quality 10 years ago compared to today, 20 years ago compared to today,
there's still a lot of duds though.
There'll always be duds.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Are you saying that there were more duds with the PlayStation 2 than there are now?
I think so.
Yeah, because the PlayStation 2 had a crap ton of shovelware, for example, right? It had a lot of shovelware.
I mean, we've lost movie games.
Yeah.
Some of them
Whereas now, for example, we're getting, if it's a superhero game,
some of them are good.
yeah, but if it's a superhero game, we're even getting like an Arkham Knight or a Spider-Man, like that quality is there.
Yeah.
It's these games were being shit out like years ago if it was a licensed game. So like I think quality overall has really stepped up.
My issue is I think I hate the trend. Like I get it, I appreciate it, but I don't like the fact that we're heading towards more of this indie space. Where, for example, if I look at the Switch, 90% of those games are those basic 2D, walk left to right sort of thing. So I think also that sort of mentality of, well, again, I get it, $5 for a basic game versus give me that $40, $50, $60 quality God of War across the board. And that's what I remember from the PlayStation 2 era. There were a lot of games where they really knocked the ball out of the park, especially in terms of RPGs.
Well, what you're asking for is that this is I'm gonna wrap this in like 2 minutes. It's a big thing that even the developers have been talking about for a long time. That middleware game, the TH2 game,
The AA.
that AA game, that is missing.
Yeah.
Like PS3 didn't have that really. They kind of did, Dark Void in them, but they lost it. You know, like Lost Planet 1. Or
Yeah.
And there's been no AA game.
This
PS3.
gen.
Like, the only ones who kind of make them are like those indie guys in the PS3, the guys who made it big, your Journeys, your The Witnesses.
Yeah.
Those guys were small, but now they've got enough to make a little bit bigger now.
Yeah.
You know, like Hellblade or something.
Yeah,
So
totally.
what you want is the big teams to make 20 or 30-man teams to make those 6-hour AAA, but 6-hour, you know, the small nugget AA games.
Yeah.
But how do you justify that as a publisher? How are you gonna justify spending that much money and when you can just make a game as a service? Put all those 40 guys.
Yep.
So
It's always about selling the dream to that publisher. Why should I fund something that's going to make me 50 million when I could fund something that will make me 150 million? So I like that point actually. I would like those AA games to make a return. That would be nice.
A lot more, that's true.
Patrick? It's not. No, it's a bit of a tough one.
Yeah, I've even lost my train of thought. I had something. Yeah.
Should we come back to you?
I have something.
What?
I want crossplay.
Oh yeah, and we're talking about this earlier.
I really want crossplay. Like,
yeah.
And the only way that we're gonna get crossplay, there's nothing we can do as fans. Like, I don't think we can convince them at all. But okay, maybe there's something. We need to tell the third-party publishers to get us crossplay because they will benefit from it. If there's a strong chance that I will convince more people who are on the fringes to buy third-party games, multiplayer games, if crossplay is available. It's harder for me to convince my, say I'm on PC, on PS, PlayStation and you're on Xbox. It's hard for me to convince you to play Division 3 or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to play the randoms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but if the crossplay is available, like, dude, just,
Yeah.
Yeah,
get it.
that's true.
So
That's
they
true.
will like sell more copies that way. If crossplay is available, third-party publishers will sell more copies. I think that's just a guarantee.
Yeah. Like you said, it will be really hard to kind of see that future happen because
Crossplay is gonna be difficult.
where you're going to be
know.
spending those microtransactions. I want you to
All
spend
the
them
stores
in my
are-
store. I don't want
Yeah.
you to spend those microtransactions.
I think it's a little bit early.
Which
yeah.
I can understand from a business perspective, you know what I mean? I think it makes complete and logical sense.
Yeah.
And I kind of see that part as like fucking business students, you know what I mean? So that's also where I am. But, so I understand that, but yeah, we'll see. I think your game has to blow up as much as Fortnite
Yeah, true.
for crossplay to be considered a thing, because you have to have leverage
Yeah.
against the console makers, especially Sony in this case, because they're the ones who are holding out.
I mean, we don't know who's gonna win next gen.
Mm.
Stadia.
Oh, when it
Stadia,
comes- when it
Stadia.
comes- When it comes to next gen, I was thinking that I think we also need a better controller in terms of both. Well, in PlayStation especially. I think.
Just keep the sticks in the same place. Do
Yeah.
not make the, what do they call
I
it?
like the DualShock 4, but it wasn't great.
Asymmetric sticks. Yeah.
Mm. And even though Xbox did spend a lot into making that advanced gamer controller, which was really nice as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it would
I
be
think-
cool if both systems had that as well, yeah.
I want VR games to be AAA and good.
Yeah. Well, I think the last few waves of PSVR games are definitely getting better. Stuff like even Blood and Truth that's coming up,
Yeah,
I think looks like pretty good.
and better architecture of PSN.
Yeah. That would be nice. Improved download speeds.
Can you remove those big buttons? I know you're probably not watching, but yeah.
Revamp. I also hope the consoles when they come out do not start with a bare bones OS. Because I remember how long we didn't have suspend resume, didn't have pause downloads, all those little things like that. I really hope we don't have to start from scratch. Like a lot of those features should be baked in from the beginning. But I think if we're reaching near me talking about suspend resume, we've probably drank this thing dry. Unless there's anything else.
What about Xbox?
No, we're talking about as a
No,
whole.
just
Don't worry. Anything else you want to add, Patrick, to that? The last bit, Dennis?
I mean, like he said about Xbox, I hope they come through with their first party studios.
Oh
I
yeah.
really hope they come through with their first party studios,
Yeah, me
man.
too.
Like I have high hopes. That
Alright, here.
the Forza studio is making an RPG.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
It's a
I mean,
Fable
I mean,
RPG,
you bring
isn't
up
it?
you bring up a good point because you find yourself in situations where Xbox and PlayStation, they're doing things better than in certain aspects than each other. Especially when it comes to PS and the first-party studios, and then you talk about Xbox and just the sheer performance and power of the console, and
Game
how
Pass.
the game and how just developers themselves are just working really well with Microsoft. I just hope that next generation reaches a point where we can have really, really good competition between the both of them.
Yeah.
I want Xbox to release a damn good RPG that is an Xbox exclusive,
Yeah.
and we can compare it to, and I want a good fight.
Same.
I want an Avengers Endgame scenario, because right now you kind of feel like sometimes the developers, even in PlayStation, they half-ass it. They're going for more money. There are a lot of tactics being taken where that a game could have been really good,
Yeah.
but they just chose a different direction. It's a lot to ask for, but I mean, I hope it goes in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making games is hard is the last
It
thing
is
I will
hard.
say on this.
Yeah,
Do
it's
not
difficult.
beat up developers when they don't make the game you want.
Of course.
It is
of course.
very, very difficult. Some of these games are miracles. Yeah.
And they crunch a lot.
Yeah, it's like building a rocket ship as you're trying to take off. So
yeah.
it's really difficult. Okay, so I think that can wrap it up for topic of the week. Join us for our final section where we'll go over mostly what Dennis has been playing.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll let Patrick talk as well.
Yeah.
Join us for that. Thanks, guys.